I am so happy Arizona got that W, but I think we can all agree that we missed Tyler Loop bad.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats post-game show, winning edition, coming to you live from our homes somewhere in the valley, the great state of Arizona. I'm Damon Fairall. That's my guy, Kevin Thomas, and this is the AZ Wildcats podcast, as I said. Kevin, the Wildcats get the job done tonight, if that's what you want to say. 23-17. Arizona moves to 3-0 for the first time in a while. And moves into 2015 and moves into conference play with a massive win against a conference opponent, but doesn't count as a conference win, as we all know. How are we feeling after this one? Because I have a feeling that this post-game show is going to be an interesting one.
I think I'm feeling a lot better than you are, Damon. I mean, we're going to talk about all the rough things that happened in this game, the sloppy play that was, and it was a sloppy second half from the Arizona Wildcats. And there are a lot of things that they have to clean up if they're going to be on the same level as Iowa State when they compete at all. But that is towards, I think, the middle and end of this show. I think the top of this show, we got to talk about how awesome this defense is and the change that Danny Gonzalez has been able to enact from last year to this year with this defense. Because like I said, we're going to criticize Michael Salgado Medina. We're going to talk about the special teams. We're going to talk about, the lack of rhythm from Noah Fifita in the second half. We're even going to criticize Seth Doege on this podcast because that was a baffling play call, Damon. But I actually feel, and I'm sure there are some people that feel the same way. I feel really, really good tonight because Arizona beat a team that is very talented and needed this game bad. And you could see that in the second half with the level of desperation that K-State had. So, Damon, I feel really good, honestly. I could feel stupendous. I could feel spectacular. I could feel on top of the world if Arizona had put together a second half like they did in the first half. But look, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. This was a W against a team that needed it bad, is in your conference, despite it not being a conference opponent technically. And you got a horror show from your special teams unit and you still escaped because, for a variety of reasons. So I feel good. I could feel great, Damon. How are you feeling?
Yeah. I think as you said, I'm going to feel a little bit worse than you. Maybe I'm going to take the role of the pessimistic one tonight. And I know that shocks everybody to their core. Kevin's going to take the optimistic side and Damon's going to look on the more pessimistic side. But dude, that is a football team that is absolutely terrible on that side over there in talking about Kansas State. Sorry, I'm fumbling all over my words right now. Okay, we're good to go. Kansas State is a bad football team. They really, truly are. And we saw that all night tonight. They cannot move the football. That is a team that absolutely unequivocally cannot move the football. They can't run the football. Avery Johnson looks terrible. They were entirely predicated on Arizona making big mistakes and shooting themselves in the foot tonight and one-off big plays happening like we saw on that say the big third down conversion, 3rd and 15 that they converted, or that other third down conversion where Avery Johnson completes that 40-yard pass. It was all big plays or nothing for Kansas State's perspective. And this was a close game, and it just absolutely should not have been. I have a ton of question marks about this team. Kevin, I know, I told you how much I've been scarred by Arizona kicking game throughout my life. I'm scarred for the rest of the season because that was absolutely horrifying to watch out of Michael Salgado Medina, who somehow has been entrusted as both the punter and the kicker. And I'm not confident that he is particularly helping this team in either regard. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. But as you said, I think it does make sense to start with the positives. You start off 3-0. You play, your toughest game of the season next, but you get a bye week before then. And if you win that game, you're ranked. If you beat Iowa State, you're ranked. So throw away the Kansas State tape. It doesn't mean anything at this point, but at the same time, like, this defensive performance was unbelievable. It's night and day to last year's, and all the plaudits go to Danny Gonzalez, Genesis Smith, the entire defensive coaching staff, that defensive line that was just taking it to that Kansas State offensive line all night. Deshaun McKnight looks unbelievable, as all the coaches and players have been raving about him all offseason. I'm thrilled about what I've seen from this defense. Kevin, how are you feeling about that defensive side of the football?
I feel incredible about it. Genesis Smith, I tweeted it before our show, looked like a star tonight, legitimately. I know he plays that star role sometimes, and that's not a pun that I intended, but like, he looked like a legitimate, like, one of the best defenders in this conference level player tonight. And that's how you and I spoke about him coming into the year. It's not how the national media was talking about Genesis Smith, because they weren't talking about him at all. And I think that he is putting a lot of people on notice nationally in terms of what he can do on the football field. And I want to bring this up because we all saw that near interception from Genesis Smith, where he went up, almost grabbed it one-handed, almost got the other hand under it, but just couldn't survive the landing. Did you notice he switched gloves in the second half? I only say that because I brought up the Chrome Hearts gloves on Twitter the other day, Damon. It seems like he abandoned them after that drop pick. He did drop maybe one or two in the second, so didn't seem like it was the gloves tonight. But he was playing out of his mind otherwise, besides his hands, Damon. You couldn't really ask more for Genesis Smith tonight. He shut the door on Kansas, and that's just one individual, right? You move into the defensive line, Deshaun McKnight. I mean, not to spoil our awards tracker later, but it was really, for me, between Genesis Smith and Deshaun McKnight for who was going to be the defensive player of the game, because Deshaun McKnight was a disruptor. The entire defensive line was really, really solid tonight, and I would say punched above their weight for what you would think that they could do coming into this game. Really impressed overall with the defensive effort, and I think that's an understatement, Damon. Like, this looks like a team that could be, I don't know how high in the Big 12 in terms of defense, but they look way better than expected, and we expected them to be fast, competitive, and violent, and they've just taken all those expectations and doubled them, and it seems like, I don't know how to really weigh it out this early going into that Iowa State matchup, Damon, but it feels like this defense can really play with anybody in the Big 12 right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a defensive conference, right? We talked about it. Like, it's a very offensive-driven conference, and quarterback-driven in particular. It's what we've talked about all offseason. And I think if you look at a team like an ASU in 2024, right, big part of the reason why they were ultimately the best team in the Big 12 at the end of the year, I think, is because of that defense, because they were one of the few teams that their offense actually leveled up to their defense, or matched up, I should say. And like, they were truly a well-rounded football team versus, like, say, maybe Kansas State, who was competing for it, who really was pretty bad offensively and good defensively, or maybe like a Iowa State, who maybe wasn't great on offense. They were good, but great on defense. BYU, kind of the opposite, right? So I feel like, this is like maybe sparks good news from Arizona's perspective, just in terms of like, how far can a good defense carry you in the Big 12 conference? How many truly good defenses are there? Say you play a team like Baylor, your second to last game of the season, and they have Sawyer Robertson, yeah, but you know that Noah Fifita can get points on the board versus that Baylor defense. What if Sawyer Robertson is he's not used to seeing the caliber of defense that he's seeing out of, say, this Arizona team compared to the rest of the Big 12? So that's where I think that maybe this could be a huge, ceiling raiser type thing for this team. But man, it's hard for me to sit here and be like, what's the ceiling of this team? Which I was, to be fair, I was doing that the entire first half. So don't get me wrong. It's not like, one half of football should just change my entire opinion. But like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, if we don't fix these very, very clear-cut issues, then, like, I just don't know how I can feel comfortable with the Brent Brennan, coaching era necessarily, because these mistakes are so fixable. And it feels like bad coaching, the fact that that's what's happening.
It's really weird, the offensive line issues specifically, right, Damon? Because I think Josh Oglesby has actually done a pretty good job with the offensive line so far this season in comparison to what you saw last year, right? But the penalties are real head scratchers. I'm not even joking, chat. I lost count of how, because I was trying to keep track at the beginning of the game when Rhino
Auto tie.
uh Tapa'ato. You know what's crazy? Real quick side note. I'm like walking around my house talking to myself about this game because I'm a psycho, and Rhino Tapa'ato's name will come up and I'll nail it every time, to the mirror and by myself. Get on here and I'm a mumbling idiot. But anyway,
It's like my Karchenkov. That's how it was
yes.
for me. Like off air, Karchenkov was going crazy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, I got a camera in front of me. I can't speak now.
He's had a shocker. But yeah, I think like, when you look at the holding calls against Rhino, I lost count, right? The first one was the 13th, I believe, against Arizona, either holding or false start this season. I think they ended the game with 4 or 5 holding or false start penalty calls against them, resulting in like 17 on the season already, and we're through 3 games. And I don't want to just fire up on the offensive line because, like I said, I think they've done a wonderful job in other areas, such as run blocking. I think they made it really easy on a guy like Ishmael Mahdi and Kedrick Risano in past games as well. But tonight, the self-inflicted wounds were unacceptable. I tweeted it earlier that I believe I said kicking and that is special teams and penalties are keeping Kansas State in this game completely, and it's true, right? Because when you look at, they were just backbreaking. We were talking to our diehards in the Discord about it. Like, how many in goal to go situations did we have holding calls on? It's just situations where you cannot have bad penalties like that. Rhino is full on like JBL clotheslining a guy on one of them, and we love Rhino. He's one of our favorite linemen. But you can't have that. You put Tristan Bounds in the game in the second half, he's doing the same thing. And it's really strange because the offensive line has not been as bad as these penalties would make you think that they've been. But you cannot have these backbreaking penalties, especially when your special teams is whatever that was tonight. But the coaching, while we talk about it, we really talk it up because it has done a full 180. I don't think anyone can say otherwise. The coaching has done a full 180 from last season in all the right ways. But like you said, Damon, these avoidable issues that Arizona is having, I don't know. Like Brent Brennan's not out there holding the guy himself. You know what I mean? Josh Ogleby's not holding the guy himself. But if it's everybody, you know what I mean? If it's a lot of guys, there is a little bit of a coaching problem there. So I think it's a little column A, little column B, but a little bit more to the coaching column than I think maybe we came into this game thinking it was, because those penalties, you can't have them.
Yeah, I think what's even more, I think, like of an issue with it, Kevin, is like because this is in the past, right? Like you're not gonna. Who cares? Arizona got the win. Who cares about those holding
all
penalties?
That matters at the end of the day, right?
They don't mean anything going into Arizona's next game versus Iowa State. That being said, if you build yourself up as the reputation of the team that is holding every time that they get down to the red zone, refs are going to be on the lookout for it. You're going to start being put under a microscope. And when you're put under a microscope, that means that, like you're just going to kind of unfairly be officiated. Call it unfair if you want, but maybe it is fair. Maybe it's because, like you've earned that reputation. So even when it's maybe wouldn't be called a hold for a different team, they're going to be looking to throw that yellow flag out at you. And I think that could be a real problem. So, yeah, I mean, we always knew that this offensive line was going to be the debilitating position group on offense. Like I think you look at the receivers, you feel comfortable. You obviously are comfortable with Fifita. The running backs have been everything you could have asked them to be and more so far this season, whether it's Quincy Craig, Kedrick Risano, Ishmael Mahdi, whoever has needed to step up has absolutely done so. Even Wesley Yarborough, right? And, it's simply just the offensive line play and all these penalties, the holdings, the false starts. It's too much, man. And you got to figure out a way to negate that kind of stuff, because otherwise you're just going to constantly shut yourself in the foot. I know they got the W, and that's the major difference here. probably because just their defense is straight up a lot better than last year's defense was. But I couldn't help but think that this entire game, I was like, man, this is Texas Tech all over again from last season. This is fumble here, holding penalty that negates a 30-yard play there, allow a big play to Texas Tech there. Like, I could make a list of 12 things that happened in that Texas Tech game in 2024 that caused Arizona to lose. And it felt like you could continue to just make that list for this game right here. But when it was all said and done, this defense stepped up and they showed that at the very least, they are completely different and playing on a completely different level than the 2024 defense.
I haven't seen this point talked about too much. I think maybe it's just too early for it to have been circulated because we were all just kind of still digesting this one. But the defense was that impressive when they weren't even getting that much help in the second half at all from the offense, right? Up until like Arizona started bleeding the clock out at the end. Like I really felt like the defense was kind of on an island in the second half, just trying to save this game for Arizona. And I think like that was what really impressed me the most, because if you can clean up some of these avoidable self-inflicted errors, Damon, it feels like that defense is a defense that can carry you to some pretty high heights in this conference. And I'm not talking like national championship stuff, but Danny Gonzalez has been. I'll just say that. I think like, if Noah Fifita and Seth Dagey can clean up whatever happened to them in that second half, because not many games are you going to have times where Noah Fifita is going 48% completion percentage and less than 200 yards on, 33 attempts. I just don't see that happening a ton this season. I think I tweeted that Noah Fifita looked invincible tonight in the first half, and he did look invincible. In fact, he was not invincible, because in that second half, he looked the complete opposite. And I think the truth is in the middle, but I think he's a lot closer to the first half quarterback than he is the second half quarterback. And I think we have to find ways to continue to see more of that first half version of Noah Fifita, because he looked completely back in that first half. In the second half, it was a totally different tale. And I'm talking about this in relation to the defense because I think Arizona really could have shut the door early in the second half if they came out with that same level of intensity. And I understand that Noah Fifita is not the one not making a tackle on a Jace Brown, jet sweep or what have you, but one hand has to wash the other. And in the second half, when the offense is leaving the defense on an island, it makes it hard. It makes it hard. It
absolutely does. As basketball and football guy says here in the chat, your defense realistically gave up about 7 points tonight. And that's the truth. Your defense was out of their minds, and really all that Kansas State was able to accomplish was capitalizing off of Arizona's own mistakes, whether it was penalties and missed kicks and bad punts and good punts of their own, good kicks of their own, right? You look at a drastic contrast and I know that they muffed a punt as well, but it didn't lead to any Arizona points, right? Or maybe it led to 3 points at the end of the half there, but it wasn't a very impactful play. Arizona muffs a punt that leads to 3 points for Kansas State. Arizona misses a 46-yard field goal, right? Or a 41-yard field goal. And Kansas State nails a 51-yarder, which, by the way, it looked like there was a big giant wind propeller that took that ball and moved it 50 yards into the middle of the goalpost. I've never even seen anything like that, but you saw the difference on special teams tonight, especially Kansas State's punter is booming the ball 65 yards downfield. And Michael Salgado Medina, here's the thing that I listen, missed kicks happen. I'm not even gonna get mad at him for the drop on the punt, because obviously horrific mistake, can't happen again, but physical mistake, right? I'm not gonna beat him up over it. What I can't have is you booting the ball out of the back of the end zone when Arizona's punting it on their own 50. And that's another thing. We're going to talk about Brent Brennan and kind of the lack of aggressiveness tonight and how everybody feels about that. But if you're going to punt it and try to flip the field position game there, I can't have my punter giving me his furthest air yards punt of the night when I don't need that. 30-yard net punt, Kevin. I mean, it's the little things like that I just can't stand watching this football program, that they just don't do from time to time. And I feel like this team has potential and could really have a great season, but not if they're going to kick like they kick tonight every night, because a better team than Kansas State takes advantage of that and wins the football game.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to single out any one player, but the kicker, I think, is a unique position in that sense.
Well, he's two players. He counts as two. He's the punter and the kicker, and he stinks at both.
He's unique in that sense where I'm not trying to single him out as a reason that they could have lost this game. But if they did lose this game, a whole lot of the fault falls on his shoulders, right, Damon? And I think like there was a point in this game where it felt like your kicker was working against you, right? Because you just had no confidence when Damon, I'm watching Michael Salgado Medina kick the ball like this. I'm watching from behind my fingers. I can't do it. I'm like, oh, and I'm almost waiting on the people, our diehards in the Discord, to really tell me what exactly is happening with the kick, because Damon, let me see prosciutto. I want to see the prosciutto. I think it's time.
The problem with Prejean is that he didn't beat out Michael Salgado Medina in a head-to-head battle. But he had every opportunity to.
It was like neck and neck though the whole time. So you could really make the argument that they're about the same level, and Salgado Medina maybe had a bit of a hotter week.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Like they were really matching each other all camp. Excuse me, but I think, they're clearly pretty similar caliber. Maybe here's the thing. A lot of times with kicking, it can be a mental thing. Maybe Prejean is nails. Maybe Prejean gets in there and that dude's just got ice in his veins. You never know until he gets out there, I guess. But physically, it seems like him and MSM are very, very neck and neck. So I don't know how much you're truly getting better, but I don't know, man. I mean, we got to hit the break here on the AZ Wildcats pod. That was our initial reactions. We're going to hit the numbers and look at some statistics. I have a feeling it's going to show that this game just should not have been 23-17. And we'll do all that and more on the other side of this break. Do not go anywhere. Leave a like. And as Kevin says, drink your damn water.
Well, Damon, it is the ad break time, and you know what that means. I got to talk to our friends about branded bills. I mean, you're rocking one right now. It's the most beautiful hat in the entire game, that one, but also the ones in the campus store, the exclusive Arizona campus store collection of branded bills. Everything from softball, baseball to basketball. You can rep your favorite school, the U of A, with our friends over at Branded Bills. Use code BB like Brent Brennan, PHNX, for 15% off your first order of the most stylish way to elevate your brand, Branded Bills.
Love our friends at Branded Bills, an absolute staple of the Valley. And you see, I got one on my head right now. I had to stop at another staple of the Valley before I, just geared up for this postgame show, Kevin. Brand redacted here, but I got a energy drink for myself at said Circle K. Because I was like, you know what? It's going to be a late night postgame show. I need to bring some damn energy for the people tonight. And who gives you energy better than Circle K, America's thirst stop, whether it's an energy drink or just a Polar Pop? Circle K is your one-stop shop for all types of beverages and more. They got the snacks as well. And of course, about the gas deals. The Inner Circle Rewards membership program saves you 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Then 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up at the tank after that, until you reach premium status and you save 5 cents off. So guys, if you are not signed up for the Inner Circle membership yet, please do so now. It is so simple to sign up. If you don't, you just hate money straight up. You plug in an email, you choose a password, and you're done. It's that simple. Do not hate money. Don't leave free money on the table. Sign up for the Inner Circle Rewards membership today. If you live in Arizona or anywhere in these United States, I know you could use that. America's thirst stop.
That was beautiful, Damon. Also, real quick, one more thing on the kicking side of things. I'll say this about Michael Salgado Medina, because I did just call for Prosciutto to enter the game. I'll say this. Salgado Medina hasn't fully lost all of my confidence. I'm terrified now when he takes the field, but I think it's just one performance. I think that's also important to note in all of this, right? He might be an inconsistent kicker. He's definitely, for damn sure, not Tyler Loop, right? And maybe giving Prosciutto opportunities is the most prudent thing to do here. But I also think, like I said, it's one performance. from a guy who's following up the best kicker maybe ever at Arizona, right? And so I think it's a tough spot that Michael Salgado Medina is in. I don't want to be totally callous towards him, but if he has maybe one more performance like this, you got to pull the plug there and put Pursuit in, because you like special teams. If K-State was not in the worst rut maybe in its program's recent history, Arizona loses this game because of the self-inflicted errors, penalties, but also kicking. And I think like you cannot have that, especially in the Big 12 when you're entering conference play. Can't have it. So Michael Salgado Medina, I'm not completely out on him, but he's got to show us something fast before I start going shopping for my Arizona charcuterie board and get prosciutto all over it.
We almost need Prajun to not ever come in the game just so Kevin can't kill me with his ridiculously corny puns, because I don't know if I can take that. I don't know if I could take that.
You know, I'm going to Photoshop his face onto some prosciutto, right? Fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the chat, by the way, Kevin, can I just say thank you guys so much for being here. It means the world to me and Kevin. Please drop a like on this video. You guys don't know how much something so simple as hitting that little like button can help us out. Leaving a rate and a review on your favorite audio podcasting platform, even if you're a YouTube subscriber. I mean, that still goes such a long way. You guys have no clue. So please like, comment, subscribe, all of the above helps us out so much. Appreciate everybody for being here. Bear down. We are all family at the end of the day. And I'm sure there's a couple of ASU fans here as well who are hate watching themselves. Kevin, the amount of ASU fans I saw live tweeting the game was pretty insane.
To be fair, insane, yes, but I don't really blame them. It was like the only real game on.
Kevin, I don't know about you, but we were not live tweeting their Mississippi State loss. People tweeted about the big plays, and I think when they were down 17-0, everybody was like throwing a party on the TL, but people weren't living and dying with every single play in the football game being like, man, Avery Johnson sucks on like a first quarter, third down errant pass, where it's like, are you guys just like glued to your TV screens right now watching Arizona football?
I'll say this. It was the only game on, and I can't really talk about live tweeting considering my last weekend's activities on Twitter as it relates to ASU. So I'll stick out of this one. But I'm sure they were hate watching. It was the only game on TV. I don't really blame them. I probably would have been doing something similar. But Damon, we have gotten almost 30 minutes into this podcast, and we haven't even broken down the numbers from this one. Shall we break down the numbers presented by our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union? It's been in the Valley for literally generations. You can ask Eric Ruby. Shout out to DFCU. Arizona wins this one 23-17. Could have put a lot more points on the board, as Damon mentioned very prudently earlier. The passing yards, shockingly anemic for Kansas State. 88 passing yards, 105 rushing yards for a total of 193 yards of offense for Kansas State. At one point, Damon, Arizona almost had more penalty yardage than K-State had total yardage. That's a fact. Arizona, 178 passing yards, but the big money stat here, well, I guess the one at the bottom is the big money stat, but in terms of offense, 234 rushing yards. Shout out to Ishmael Mahdi, the home run hitter himself. Gets us up to a total of 412 yards. 2 turnovers from Arizona, albeit a little bit lacking tradition in that sense, as Nunu Watley throws an interception. We can get into that a little bit later. What said that he was thinking? I got no idea. He's a very smart guy. Excuse me. I don't know what he was thinking there, though. And then the penalties, we talked about it earlier. Shooting yourself in the foot, 7 for 56 yards against Arizona to just 2 for 30. For K-State. So that's your By the Numbers presented by Desert Financial Credit Union.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's about what I was expecting to look at, Kevin. I know, I literally said to you, I was like, I'm going to look at those numbers and just be like, how did Arizona not win this game by 20 points? And I still feel that way. This should have been a 20-point victory. This should have been a 3-touchdown win. That's how much better it felt, at least, that Arizona was than this team, or at least better prepared. You look at those passing yards, man. This Kansas State passing offense is, I mean, they are broken. They are absolutely broken. And, I think, you're just, I don't know how that team is gotten to the place that they have. Their wide receiving core, oh my God, Kevin, diabolically bad. Those wide receivers are diabolically bad. I want every Kansas State fan who's ever said a bad word about Trey Spivey to apologize.
I haven't
And
even said a bad word about Trey Spivey, and I will apologize because I've seen K-State's playmakers make better plays than they made against Arizona tonight. But Trey Spivey clears all those guys, probably except for Jace Brown. I think Tibbs on his best day, Trey Spivey would have trouble clearing, but Tibbs was not his best day tonight.
No, but I mean, Trey Spivey, listen, he didn't do anything tonight, but that being said, except he did hold on to that football, and I guess
he probably shouldn't have never came back into that game. Let's just keep it real. Like for the health of the man,
up. I think he was fine. He
fine.
Popped right back up. I don't like when people do that. He shouldn't have come back into the game. They checked him. He was, he got checked. He got cleared. That Arizona's not putting their players in harm's way. If he was in any case, it was up in the air, they're holding Trey Spivey out and being careful with them. I think he held onto that football. Fantastic. All I was saying was that Trey Spivey is much better than whatever that dross that I saw on Kansas State's receiving court tonight, because that was horrendous stuff.
1000%. And I just want to talk about it now, to be honest with you. What was that stretch of extremely nasty play from K-State? We all watched it. We all saw it. That was wild. The somewhat late hit on Noah Fifita, it wasn't really malicious, but then the targeting against Trey Spivey, yeah, I mean, we totally didn't do that. But the targeting against Trey Spivey was targeting 10 times out of 10. Like, he really could have seriously hurt Trey Spivey. Ejection totally warranted. It felt like the frustration heading into halftime for K-State was at like a real pitch point, like a real turning point. And I think like Arizona, and I said this on Twitter, I believe, or maybe I said it in the Die Hard Discord only, but like my biggest disappointment until I saw the rest of the special teams and the remainder of that second half, coming out of that first half, my biggest disappointment was that it felt like Arizona almost didn't expect K-State to come out with some sort of something to punch them in the mouth, right? It felt like they were almost like caught completely off guard by the Jace Brown end around. And after that, and on offense, it felt like they expected the defense to be listless and just not come out with the same level of energy as if they were beaten into submission in one half. I did not like the way that Arizona came out in the second half. The defense shook back and adjusted. The offense really didn't, outside of the run game. Did you feel the same about that stretch of play from K-State? Like, were you also on your couch just like, hey, what are we doing? Why are we just going to kill every Wildcat? What are we doing?
I mean, the push on Fifita, listen, it was late and I called for a flag. I actually called right in the moment before they threw the flag because they threw it kind of late, right? I was like, I want Fifita to flop. I'm shameless about it. I want Fifita to throw himself onto the ground like he just got mauled by a grizzly bear and give me 15. But that was the right call. The Trey Spivey hit, I mean, obvious targeting, no question about it. At the same time, I think in that bang of a circumstance, I'm not going to blame the Kansas State player for trying to make a big play. No. I thought, he's just trying to jar.
It was clearly not purposeful.
No, it wasn't. He's just trying to jar the ball loose. And so I'm not going to harp on him and be like, man, what a dirty hit, or like, wow, they're trying to get back at their former teammate. But I think, that was a hit that was every bit intentional to, just be a football play. And back in the day, that's clean as can be. But that's almost the definition of targeting nowadays.
He said that for certain. He was like, well, back in the day, that's just good football. People not happy.
RG3 is a yapper, man. You want to talk? Me and you are yappers. That man is a yapper.
I don't like RG3 for his level of corniness, and I think that's all you really need to know about RG3. As I am your resident cornball, and if I think RG3 is corny, then he might be the entire field. I'll just say that. But Damon, I want to address this chat before we move on to some more of our segments and graphics. Roberto says, one positive thing is that we're making these errors early in the season. Hopefully we can get better from here. And I think that this is something that we talked a lot about last season, Damon, is it felt like Arizona was dead in the water at times last year because it felt like a lot of the changes that they needed to make were not something you could do on the fly. We're not something you could do week 6 of an NCAA season, right? these errors that they're making that we're identifying all feel soluble. Is that the right word for that? They all feel like you can solve that. I don't know. You get the point. It's late, but these errors feel fixable, right? Last year, the errors did not feel fixable. They felt existential, right? This year, it feels like smaller stuff on the margins that you can clean up. Sorry if you hear my dog eating, but it feels like these are things on the margin that you can clean up, and Arizona can shake back from these holding penalties, from the special team stuff. You can find a reliable kicker, even if it's not like super reliable, like a Tyler Loop. You can find a guy by the end of the year on your roster that can at least make a field goal every once in a while for you. The holding stuff, I think it comes down to the players working with the coaches, right? Really listening to them, because like I said, some of these holds and some of these false starts, it's a coaching thing, but like Rhino straight up clotheslining a dude has nothing to do with Josh Oglesby. You know what I mean? So I think that like Roberto is completely correct in his assessment that these feel fixable. And it feels like something that by the end of the year, hopefully we're not talking about in the same light. And that feels like a drastic change from last year, where everything just felt like an arduous like journey to get over a hump, right? Like fixing a Noah Fifita like completion percent, or not completion percent, but fixing Noah Fifita's like motion last year and fixing his level of success just felt like something you could never do, right? Finding a run game felt like an impossible thing to do last year for Arizona. Finding a number 2 receiver behind Teteroa McMillan felt like an impossibility. The issues that Arizona has this year that are showing themselves early feel like they can be managed and fixed by the end of the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, everything tonight felt fixable, and that's why the win's so important, because all that matters is you add that win to the win column. That adds now you're half the way to bowl eligibility already in the season through 3 weeks, and you move on from there. You'd be feeling a lot worse about how winnable this game was if you ended up losing it, right? Like you would be sitting there kicking yourself, being like, man, you just left so much on the table here. So, at the end of the day, this win counts just as much as a 40-point blowout does. It's not like that would count for 2. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be fixed here, including, what we saw from the second half offense, including the special teams, including the offensive line and their just complete lack of discipline. And all that has to be figured out and more. But, Kevin, we got to get into some of these other segments that we have designated here on the AZ Wildcats post-game show. But first, I want to make sure that we hit these super chats and give them enough of their plaudits. We got June Thomas, of course, 2 super chats to start things off. June, by the way, a supporters club member, guys. If we are doing this new thing called the supporters club here at PHNX Sports, where for a mere $5 a month, less than a Starbucks coffee, you can go ahead and become a supporting member. You get these really cool badges. AZ Catch G, if you're here right now in the chat, I know you were here in the pregame show. I know that you were on the ASU show earlier today. Drop some of those fire Wildcat hand signs in the chat. June, drop one of those as well. Show the people what they're missing out on. You guys can, of course, just for $5, get in on that. June, of course, follows on to say, thank you, Cohen Kinney, for the great play-by-play. 1,000% Cohen Kinney, crushing it per usual, boots on the ground in Tucson. We are thrilled to be welcoming Cohen on later in the show. He's going to, send some clips in. We're going to hear from Brent Brennan and some of the players, and, Cohen's going to hop on and talk to us about what got said. And then also Monkey D. Shane, appreciate you, man. Not going to read the whole message. I hope that you understand, we're just kind of, walking on a little bit of eggshells over here right now, but bear down. God is good. Wildcats are good. In Fifita, we trust. Wins might not look good, for winning is the mission. Next up, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your super chat, and your donation means the world to us as well. Like this video chat, we really appreciate everybody for being here in this chat right now. But Kevin, we got to give out a player of the game award. We got to give out a King of A Mountain.
We really do, Damon, and I think we should get to that after this next break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Sorry about it. Damon, there's so many great things out here to do in the Valley, but I think there's really only one spot that if you hit Arizona money line plus 105 tonight, that you want to spend your money like me at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I am partial now to V Kiva these days as of my new location, but I know Damon is a Wild Horse Pass man himself. We do most of our events, I should say, at Gila River Wild Horse Pass's location. And man, that BetMGM Sportsbook is special. I remember Eric, his wife, my girlfriend, and I all went and saw the Straight Game podcast featuring Shaq and Mike Bibby live at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That's the kind of stuff you could do there. A ton of fun all night. And then after it ended, I shot myself right back up into the BetMGM Sportsbook and watched the Khamzat Chimaev fight. It was a bit of a snooze fest, but it was a great time the rest of the night at BetMGM Sportsbook and Gila River Resorts and Casinos, where you do you. So make sure to check out Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Play at Gila.com for more details.
Appreciate you, Connor McGrath. Have a good night, brother. Appreciate you for watching. Also want to go ahead and shout out our friends at Shady Rays, who have the ultimate lost and broken replacement policy in all of eyewear.
I bet Connor living in Miami would look phenomenal on the beaches in some Shady Rays, no?
100%. And Shady Rays are like, Miami's all about fashion. The Shady Rays are out and popping in Miami because there are no better premium polarized sunglasses in the great, just world that we live in right now than the fans or the people over at Shady Rays, guys. Premium polarized shades, all types of styles for any type of person and type of fit that you're trying to get off. And like I said, they're polarized and they are not for a premium price. No, sir, they are absolutely not. And that lost and broken replacement policy, if you guys lose or break your sunglasses, which we all know is so easy to do, Shady Rays is just going to replace them. No questions asked. Just hit up their support team, send them an email, tell them your order number, tell them what happened. They'll send you a brand new pair. It's an absolutely awesome deal. Head on over to shadyrays.com. Use our promo code of PHNX and take advantage of the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. That's promo code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses.
People might be rating Shady Rays 5 stars, Damon. I think I'm going to rate Ishmael Mahdi's performance from tonight 5 stars, as he is our king of a mountain.
What a fire graphic, Kevin. You really cooked on this one.
Shout out to Noah. Shout out to me as well.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Noah does a lot for us, but But you deserve the credit on this one, my brother.
I appreciate it. I will take the credit. 22 carries, 189 yards, and a long of 60-yard rush. We all remember that one. I remember when I spoke to Ishmael Mahdi at Media Day, I asked him what he's most excited to show off as a new Arizona Wildcat to this fan base that if you saw Arizona State versus Texas State last year, maybe you're familiar with Ishmael Mahdi, or if you're a real sicko, then you're familiar with Ishmael Mahdi prior to Arizona. But most Wildcat fans are learning of Ishmael Mahdi for the first time. And I think that, what he told me was he's excited to show off his home run ability, what he can do in the open field, how much yards after he crosses the line of scrimmage he can rack up, right? And I think tonight was a great example of that. It felt like Ishmael Mahdi, every time he crossed his offensive line into the second level of the defense, gained plus 100 speed. I don't know what the rating would be, but it felt like his second effort was always good, and it felt like his ability to read what hole he needed to go into was always good. Ishmael Mahdi, not even a question, our king of A Mountain tonight in terms of statistics, but also you just needed him in the second half. And we talked about it. It's a totally different, not totally different, but somewhat different context. We talked about it with ASU against Mississippi State. Sam Leavitt was not getting it done. You needed your running game in that one. And they didn't win that game, right? But Arizona, they couldn't get it done with Noah Fifita tonight in the second half. I hate to say it, but it's true, right? They just couldn't get it done. They could not find success in the passing game. You needed Ishmael Mahdi to rack up the yards like he did in the second half. And for that, he is our king of A Mountain.
Yeah, there's no question about it. No Kedrick Reesano tonight. Didn't see a whole lot of Quincy Craig tonight. And mine and Justin Spears' kind of two-headed snake prediction of Quincy Craig maybe leading this backfield in all-purpose yards maybe doesn't look all that great right now, because Ishmael Mahdi was, very much given, the share of the ball more than a Quincy Craig was tonight, despite maybe what we saw in week 1. Who knows what was going on there? Maybe Ishmael Mahdi was holding on to some sort of small nagging injury. I don't really know, but Ishmael Mahdi looked every bit the Texas State All-Star that we brought in this offseason tonight. There's a reason he has like a 87 NCAA rating. It's because he was so productive when he was at Texas State. And, I think it was going to be perceived as a miss potentially by Arizona's coaches if this guy was not the leading ball carrier, if this guy was not, maybe just neck and neck with the leading ball carrier as a 1A, 1B type of player. And tonight you saw exactly what they brought Ishmael Mahdi in to do. So, King of A Mountain, no doubt about it. And Ishmael Mahdi greater than Cam Scatterbu. We all know that. That's been known.
You know who really is greater than Cam Scatterbu? Bill. That's a fact. I also wanted to add, you mentioned I actually don't know if you saw, Kevin. Cam Scatterbu had the greatest negative yard rushing performance in the history of the National Football League on Sunday. So you take that back, sir. Oh man, I saw someone, was it Icevert? I think it was Icevert, popular Twitter account, posted that video of JCM that I also reposted of the from behind him where the camera pans up and it's a beautiful stadium shot. Yeah. He said, is this the first ever industry plant player? And I'm thinking to myself, no, not at all. But if we're giving Cam Scatterbu angry runner of the week for a block, I don't.
It was a catch, Kevin. It was a catch for 3 yards.
Wow.
My simple question, obviously, I've been trolling ASU fans over it because, got to do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. But could we not have found a single run that maybe was impactful on the outcome of a football game? You're telling me there was not one single angry run that maybe was kind of a decent sized play? I know that they were just on their hands and knees to give that to Cam Scatterbu because he's their sweet little baby angel who, drives all this crazy social media interaction because of the, obviously because ASU fans love him so much, but also because he's just a phenomenon. And that's a whole other thing we don't need to get into, but what a performance. Holy crap, dude.
Yeah. Insane. Real quick,
better than T-Mac?
Back on the Ishmael Mahdi side of things. Also, no, never. Back on the Ishmael Mahdi side of things, you mentioned the potential injury. I think Brent Brennan mentioned in the post game talking to Fox reporter, I forget her name, I apologize, but she asked him about Ishmael Mahdi, and he did say it's really nice to see him get this level of production because he was dealing with some nagging stuff in training camp that did impact his ability to really be as explosive and as creative as he wanted to. So it seems like Ishmael Mahdi is healthy, and it seems like Ishmael Mahdi, we can expect maybe not as gaudy of numbers as we got tonight, but in terms of what it looked like, I think we can expect it to look a lot more like this with Ishmael Mahdi going forward. And I think this is a good segue, Damon, into our awards tracker, right? Because we had a lot of decisions to make tonight, and I think I honestly, off the top, would love to discuss with you the MVP award, because as we see here, that's not a player. That's not a player that's a father. That's Danny Gonzalez.
That's Uno champion Danny Gonzalez.
Because for much of this game, I had Ishmael Mahdi penciled in as the MVP, right? Because of everything I lined up earlier when we talked about him as a king of A Mountain, right? You had to go away from your guy, Noah Fifita. And who was there for you? Ishmael Mahdi was there for you. But Damon, you want to argue for the defense, and I'm inclined to agree, but can you lay it out for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Ishmael Mahdi gets 3 awards tonight. Offensive player of the game, transfer player of the game, breakout player of the game, all very deserved. No one deserves any of those other 3, right? That's clear as day. The MVP, though, for me, was just the defense as a whole, and who represents that defense, of course, Coach Danny G. So, he gets the MVP tonight. Genesis gets defensive player of the game. I can't for the life of me understand why Kansas State attacked Genesis Smith every play to end that one out. They literally were 4 downs to get 10 yards here, game on the line. Let's throw it 3 times at Genesis Smith. And you're like, okay, sign me up. I love it. And so, Genesis Smith I thought he was unbelievable tonight. He was everywhere on the field. Could you imagine if he came down with that one-handed interception, Kevin? I mean, that was unreal. He should have picked off another pass in that fourth quarter. He had a great game, man. And that defense in general was just flying all over the field. I tweeted it from our beat account, follow at PHNX_Wildcats. You got the Desert Swarm out there tonight, man. That was crazy. They were flying all over. They were getting animated. Like, that's the best defensive football I've seen in a really long time. And maybe it's because you played a really bad Kansas State team. Who knows? But this is this defense is definitely the best defense that we've seen in Tucson in some time here, Kevin.
Yeah, and I agree with you for the record. Like, he's the MVP, Danny Gonzalez, for what he was able to put together tonight with this unit defensively. And I think, like, there wasn't, outside of Ishmael Mahdi, there wasn't really a player individually that stuck out to the level of MVP. And I think that when we're talking about, like, K-State and how we're evaluating that, like, I don't know. I know that K-State okay, hear me out. Walk with me. I know K-State has looked really, really bad this season, but, like, I don't know if I'm ready to be like, that's a bad football team. You know what I mean? And I think at what point, because Arizona deserves some sort of credit for these first 3 wins they've pulled off, right? I know people are going to want to look back and say, well, Hawaii's not very good, but they're pretty high quality for a week, one opponent within reason. I know that's not like a huge Ohio State versus Texas type of level, but Hawaii's a competitive football team, right?
Yeah.
Weber State, they're not good. Right? Arizona does not deserve a ton of credit for destroying Weber State the way that they did. But K-State is really, really talented. And if Arizona lost this game, we'd be giving them a ton of grief. Even if they lost it in a closer way than, it would have been tonight. Because it would have been sloppy. It would have been Arizona's fault, right? But let's say, I know this is like the world of hypotheticals, but if K-State just won a close game tonight and still looked like not very good, I don't know. I think people would say, well, K-State, they got a tough one on the road. They could be back, and maybe they're fixing some. Like, I want to make sure that the squad gets the credit for beating K-State, because that was a preseason, very well-respected team for good reason. Avery Johnson, although not being utilized correctly, is still really talented. He looked really bad tonight. I'm not gonna sit here and cape for Avery Johnson, because I think, you know what I mean? Like, this is not the not the performance to put up a defense for Avery Johnson. But
yeah.
I do think defeating K-State in the manner that you did is quite an impressive thing, even though if K-State has a bad year, you're going to look back on it and say, oh, that was a bad K-State team. But it really isn't. It's a weird state of that program right now. Getting back to our awards tracker, Damon, Ishmael Mahdi cleans up, as they say, the awards tonight. Offensive player of the game, for obvious reasons, transfer player of the game, and breakout player of the game. Because like I said earlier, Ishmael Mahdi, to a lot of Arizona fans, you did not know about him until he signed that dotted line to become an Arizona Wildcat. And I bet you know about him now. And yeah, that is our awards tracker for tonight, Damon. Any more thoughts on that?
No, not really. Just a very overall, really great game from Ishmael Mahdi's standpoint when you needed him most. And yeah, you don't win this game without his ability to really bounce those runs to the outside and hit holes hard, right? Like, especially, what comes to mind, that pass he caught, Kevin, where, he's in the middle of that football field and the dude just sees a hole and hits it. And, I think, like, not to pick on a guy, because I feel like, there's a chance that we do stuff like this all season long and it's not necessarily fair to these guys, but like, a Quali Conley doesn't have the ability to make that play, Kevin. Like, he just doesn't have that second gear that Ishmael Mahdi showed you on that circumstance. And, again, that's not to pick on a guy. That's just the flat truth. Like, he's just kind of an average player. Now you have a stable of like 3 backs that you trust and think are dynamic and can make plays. Like, I don't know. I just think that this team is in such a better place than it was. And we're going to have a lot of time here with the bye week to talk about, what you got to do against Iowa State and how you get that win. I don't know how realistic that truly is, but 3-0, man, 3-0. This team is 3-0, and a lot of people wouldn't have picked that to be the case. Almost everybody would have told you 2-1, to start the season. So I think you've already made up a win on what was like the perceived notion of the team, and now you just move on and see how far you can go. But Kevin, we got to hit one last final ad break here on the AZ Wildcats pod. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after the break. And
it's Rally House, folks. I mean, we're talking about all year how we can level up Damon Dog's home setup. And I think he's done a pretty serviceable job. But I think it's because he stopped by our friends over at Rally House and checked out their memorabilia section. Because if you go online to www.rallyhouse.com right now, there are 39 pages of Arizona Wildcats memorabilia and merchandise. Just spend an hour going through window shopping or actually shopping at Rally House, because it's the best way to really improve your catalog of team memorabilia. You can rep any team in the state of Arizona, the freedom state, the freedom to rep whatever team you want. Find your local Rally House location and shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com. Rally House is the go-to spot to shop for all your favorite local Arizona team gear.
Yeah, Rally House is just an unbelievable company, Kevin. And another company that, you know, has helped us out a lot as we recently made our move is Spencer's Appliances. Kevin, we have mounted 1 million TVs in our office, and you know, sadly, as much as
99,999.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope Shane's watching.
100%. Yeah, Shane's TV yet to be mounted, but our good friends at Spencer's Appliances, we couldn't have done it without them, because you know, let's be honest, as much as we are like a bunch of like sports podcasters, we're not exactly a bunch of handymen. We're not exactly a bunch of tool guys, right, Kevin? I don't know if you've even used a hammer and a nail in your whole life, brother. But Spencer's Appliances, they're good with their hands. They're good with their tools, and they're good at, you know, mounting TVs, bringing stuff to you, whether it's televisions, any type of appliance. And PHNX 5 is going to get you 5% off appliances. PHNX 10 is going to get you 10% off TVs, audio, and mattresses. They're employee-owned and operated. They have 11 Valley locations, so there's something all over across the Valley, and they got same and next-day delivery options available. The largest selection of in-stock appliances in the great state of Arizona, and they're the largest independent appliance dealer in the state as well. It's like having a friend in the business. Visit spencerstv.com or any of their 11 Valley locations today. That's visit spencerstv.com.
We are back with, ad-free podcasting the rest of the way here, folks.
Trevor,
Damon,
I'm shocked.
can
I for one, Kevin, can I just say I'm shocked that Eric Ruby predicted a Kansas State win. What? I can't believe it.
Not even his most insane take, to be fair. You know?
I mean, he thought Hawaii was going to win. So
yeah. I mean, Eric Ruby, bad take factory.
Yeah, he is.
At least when it comes to the Arizona Wildcats, you know, he actually has some pretty decent Suns takes, but his U of A takes they leave a lot to be desired, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I had to get that in, because I just, you know, these ASU guys, like they constantly, you know, they dupe me. They make me think that they're going to pick the Cats, and then they don't do it.
Hey, you never know. You really never know with those dudes. And I, you know, while we're on the topic of the chat, Damon, shout out to everybody in the chat. Love you each and every one of you guys for spending some time with us tonight. G-Rod, I am with you. Me and Damon, we're going through it nightmare all the way to start that second half. I was scared. I was losing faith by the second that they were going to blow it, but they didn't. We're talking about a W tonight.
I was watching it with the blankets covering my eyes at the end of the game, especially on that last Michael Salgado Medina field goal attempt, which of course ended up being a miss. But yeah, man, that was one of the scariest experiences in my life. And I'm right there with you, G-Rod. Like, that just felt like a game that you almost did everything in your power to lose. So it felt inevitable.
Yeah.
And thankfully, you know, the team got the job done. Maybe it's signs that things are changing in Tucson and you know, kind of the new iteration of the Brent Brennan era. And a lot of that was, you know, kind of driven in all offseason by our guy, Seth Dagey. But Kevin, Seth Dagey made kind of a baffling call tonight. Turns out he's human. We're going to talk about that in overtime and dive into the Seth Dagey discussion of things here on the AZ Wildcats pod. But Kevin, what I know we were all tweeting about it. The Twitter streets were blowing up. Like, Arizona was just running the football effectively, right? You know, you get the ball, it's a 3-yard run followed by a 34-yard run by Ishmael Mahdi to get into Kansas State territory, followed up by a 4-yard run by Ishmael Mahdi. And then on 2nd and 6, we get a new Watley pass that is thrown and it goes for an interception. Kevin, what's going on there? What is Seth Dagey doing? And, why can't our sweet, beautiful boy be perfect?
I mean, you're asking me to answer a question that I honestly have no answer to be honest. I don't know. I think Seth Dagey has been pretty lights out as a play caller thus far, Damon, in his tenure at Arizona, right? And I think this is like his first real moment of, I don't know what he was thinking there. You know what I mean? Like you have a clear route to success on this drive, and it seems like you just kind of got in your own head and got a little cute with it. I don't know. I'm not going to like make any, overreactions about one poor play call from Seth Dagey. And if it works out, we're like, wow, what a mad genius Seth Dagey is, So
yeah,
it was baffling though. Like it definitely was baffling. It was uncharacteristic of Seth Dagey thus far at Arizona. And you hope that this is like one of those moments where you get away with it in the end and you're like, whew, don't know what I was doing there, but I can't do that one again. And I hope that that's what this was for Seth Dagey. I don't know what he was thinking with that one. It doesn't, usually when you get these trick plays, Damon, the announcers always have something up their sleeve of like, oh, Nunu Watley, he used to play a mean quarterback game down in there was none of that. I'm not even sure Nunu Watley, the way he was looking at throwing the ball, has ever really been out on the run to throw a ball before. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like we're going to get Justin Spears on here who knows all that kind of stuff. And he's going to be like, no, Nunu Watley in middle school was the quarterback in his city, And I don't know. It just felt like a misguided choice in a high tension moment. And I'm not going to, poo-poo Seth Dagey, who has done an incredible job, too much for one poor play call when all we got last year was baffling play calls, play after play after play. So I think this is just Seth Dagey being a normal human and making a mistake, but it was a baffling one for certain.
Yeah, it certainly was. And it felt like Arizona was just dominating Kansas State on the ground. A lot of this yardage that you saw in this game and this huge yardage differential was, in my opinion, driven by the fact that Arizona is running basically at will, and Kansas State can't run at all. That's where for me, this game should have just been a straight up blowout, and you just left things too close. But ultimately, I think that both of these coordinator hires have been nothing short of a absolute success as we go through 3 weeks here. Danny Gonzalez has the boys humming, playing an absolutely intense brand of football. And, this is a guy who's been successful as a defensive coordinator at pretty much every stop that he has been one. It's not shocking that he's successful here at Arizona with kind of a reshaped defense. And then, Seth Dagey, maybe he's not infallible like we thought, but still an overall good game. It's not his fault that the offensive line is holding like that. Like, it's not like Seth Dagey is the O-line coach. It's not like Seth Dagey is the head coach, if you want to, make a trickle down argument. And, I ultimately, I thought the fast start was great. I know you only got you missed the field goal right on the opening drive, or you only got a field goal on the opening drive, but it definitely, without the holding penalties there, the scripted drive was going fantastic. That's a sign of great coaching out of Seth Dagey. And yeah, you missed that field goal. So I was right about that one. But yeah, Kevin, just a absolute horror show from a special teams standpoint. Truly, the defense dominant, the offense better than Kansas State's defense, and the special teams difference was just if we were doing the matchup battles right now, Kevin, after the post game, I'd be putting the world's biggest arrow over top of Kansas State special teams versus Arizona special teams, because it was almost such a drastic difference that you lost the game because of it, which is crazy to say.
It is, and it's always a questionable situation, or not questionable, but it always feels like a stark contrast. Like it makes you feel so much worse when your special teams looks a certain way, and then your opponent special teams looks a certain way, Damon. And I feel like I do believe we do have some clips from Brent Brennan about Michael Salgado Medina from our guy Cohen Kinney here coming up shortly. So we'll talk more about Michael Salgado Medina. But Damon, before we get to Cohen Kinney, I believe you have a doghouse to put somebody in.
Yeah, we do, unfortunately. And Kevin, that was a good little transition there, because why don't we get into my doghouse for the night? And we'll keep this one short and sweet. It is unfortunately Michael Salgado Medina. And listen, Kevin, you could take him off screen. He's just a kid. They're just kids. But that being said, you got to make your kicks, buddy. Because, like if you have another performance like that, Arizona's probably going to lose the football game with the remaining schedule that they have. Kansas State might be the worst team in the Big 12 outside of like Oklahoma State and West Virginia. Truly. I mean, that's a bad football team that you just played. And, you kind of escaped with your life on at home. Probably should have been a blowout. Can't lose games on the margins like that moving forward. Michael Salgado Medina. I thought about putting Nunu Watley in the doghouse, Kevin. Ultimately, I didn't, because he had that 4th down reception. That was why I didn't, because he made a really nice catch on that 4th down. He easily could have dropped that. Outside of that, Nunu Watley had that huge 3rd down drop. He had that huge, like 30-yard plus play drop where Noah Fifita put it in an absolute bucket to him. And then he threw the pick. He threw the interception, which was ill-advised. And he pump faked it. And he telegraphed exactly where the ball was going to go. And
Man,
dude, you don't have the arm capacity to be doing that, or else you would be playing quarterback. So it was an awful game from Nunu Watley. It was an awful game from Michael Salgado Medina. They could have shared it like all Sams in the world shared it last week, but I couldn't think of a clever way for that to make that mix. So I ended up just giving it to Michael Salgado Medina because that kicking performance was shameful. And he's the punter too. And the punting was the part that set me over the edge. But that's my doghouse for the week. Kevin, how do we feel?
It feels right. And like I said earlier, we don't really want to single out Michael Salgado Medina, although he is in a unique position on the field in which it is just him really out there doing what he does. And I think like when you talk about Nunu Watley, I think, yes, honorable mention for the doghouse, but I think I think 2 of his drops were Noah Fifita just overthrowing him by like 3 or 4 inches. And I you know what I mean? Like those are tough. I mean, we saw it with Chris Hunter earlier in the game, right? Like off the fingertips, and he's able to hold on and catch it. But that's a really tough catch, way tougher than it looks to haul one in with just your fingertips. So I didn't feel too much any of the way of Nunu Watley. He did make some errors in this one, but it was sometimes a little bit of just being half an inch off from a touchdown in the back right corner, for example, from Noah Fifita. And he wasn't the only guy that Noah Fifita was overthrowing tonight, and I for that reason, I think Nunu Watley correctly escapes the doghouse. There was another character that I thought should have been in the doghouse tonight, and it escaped my mind. I apologize. I'm wondering if RG3 could have made it into the doghouse. I'm wondering if, honestly, there's a world where like Rhino or like the offensive line makes it into
100%
the doghouse, because Rhino, I think, had 3 holdings in this game, maybe more. I don't want to put
and
that on him.
I love my guy. I love my
too.
Rhino, but dude, it's unacceptable. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought that maybe like, especially like I want to say like maybe the first, or maybe it was the second one, felt weak. One of them felt pretty weak, but a couple of them were pretty egregious and bad. And you can't really have that from Rhino Tapa'atotai, who is supposed to be the leader of that position group and kind of set those guys by example. But Kevin, we did just talk about Michael Salgado Medina and his poor performance tonight. What did Brent Brennan have to say on his kicker and just the confidence in him moving forward? Here's Brent Brennan.
Got faith in Michael, and he had 2 bad plays, but then he responded and he hit the field goal after that. You know what I mean? So I believe in that young man, and he's going to be a great player here for years to come.
I mean, I don't know what he's supposed to say. I'm not going to crush Brent Brennan for not going into the post-game press conference and being like, my kicker sucks. Like, our kicking situation sucks. We'll leave that to Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham, the master that is Kenny Dillingham, can go ahead and trash his active players on his team and make people feel worse about themselves. But like, what I don't love there from Brennan's answer is the fact that he's like bottling it down to 2 things. oh, he made 2 bad plays and then he made a big kick. Yeah, and then he made another missed kick. Then he missed another kick. And then he had a bad punt. And then he dropped the ball on that long snap and got another punt blocked because of it. Like, we're really going to bottle that down to 2 plays tonight? He missed 2 field goals, had a punt blocked solely because he couldn't catch the long snap.
That one should have been a touchdown too. I think it hit the ref.
And punted a short field like punt where you could have pinned them back inside their 20, back inside their 10, into the end zone by about 8 yards. Like, it wasn't even close. To me, that's 4 back-breaking plays right there. So I don't love Brent Brennan kind of like bottling it down to 2 things when that's not even the truth. I watched it happen. Sorry, sir. It was more than that. So I'm truly down on this kicking game. And I raised it as a concern going into this season, but that game made me 10 times more scared about it.
Well, you were talking about, seeing it with your own 2 eyes. One man that saw Brent Brennan tonight with his own 2 eyes is the one, the only Cohen Kinney. Welcome in to the pod.
Woo!
It's
Cohen time.
You have, many clips, but I think we'll start here. What was your reaction tonight to the W from the Arizona Wildcats?
Yeah, I just think it was a nail-biting game. Towards that, that second half was just mind-boggling, some of the things that we were witnessing, because the first half looked great. I mean, going into this game, there was a lot of questions. What kind of team is Kansas State? Are they good? Are they competitive? They've looked kind of shaky in these first couple of games here for them. So I think it was, that coupled with the fact that it's Arizona's first kind of look at a conference team. I think the first half looked great. You want to see more of that. The second half, not so much, but the team still pulled through and they persevered. So.
Yeah, there was one big thing that kind of was backbreaking for this team tonight was the offensive line play, Cohen. It felt like Arizona left a lot on the board on the offensive side of the football. Like, they were driving, the run game was incredibly effective, and then you get down to the red zone, and what's that? There's some yellow laundry on the field. What was kind of the talk in postgame about the amount of penalties tonight on the Arizona side, how backbreaking a lot of them were, and ultimately, like, what did Brent Brennan have to say about it?
To be honest, Brennan didn't talk much about the penalty situation other than the fact that, they have to be better and that kind of thing. So he didn't really get too much into it. Obviously, it seems like the team knows that it's not beneficial for the team. He focused more so on the positives. As soon as he opened the press conference, he was like, come on, let's talk about the positives, What a game we just had. We won a thriller. So he kept it to the positives. He mentioned, like you were saying, the run game severely opened up. This team has a really good knack for opening holes for the running backs in the backfield. I think that as of right now is definitely the identity of the offense. You would like to see a little bit more consistency in terms of the penalty situation, of course. Pass protection also, you want to clean up some things up there. So he kept it more to the positives for sure. And, kind of the good things that we all witnessed ourselves.
We do have a clip from Cohen on Brent Brennan talking about not only the tackle situation, but also his offensive line doing some good things, allowing Ishmael Mahdi to have such a big day.
Lionel's still coming back from his injury, and so he's on a pitch count. You know what I mean? So we're being smart about that. We're listening to the medical staff, and we're doing whatever they think we should with those reps. And I thought Tristan did a good job coming in there and playing. I think in terms of the offensive line, I know we have some work to do, but I'm excited about their progress. I really am. And I think that has shown up in our first 3 games in both running the ball and throwing it. And so I'm excited. And you always need more than 5. It's not like we got 5 guys and it's going to be the same 5 every week in college football. It doesn't work that way. And so I'm excited. I think Coach Oglesby's done a nice job of developing that position. And I think those guys work their tails off. And I'm excited about the multiple guys that can step in and play good football and give us a chance to win. When we went to dinner tonight, I always choose different groups to eat first, right? And at the pregame meal tonight, I told the team, this game's going to be one up front. So I said, O-line, D-line, you eat first, which is dangerous because you don't know if there's going to be anything left. You know what I mean? But so I said, O-line, D-line, you eat first. And what I saw is I saw that group continue to answer every time. on both sides of the ball. But in regards to Mahdi, like, he doesn't make those plays without that offensive front blocking the way they had to against a team that's normally hard to block. You know what I mean? Like, those guys are freaking good, man. And so I'm really excited about just how they responded and how, you know, Ish just kept showing up and kept ripping off big runs with physicality and finish and receivers blocking downfield. There's a lot of good there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to be said about maybe we're crushing the O-line a little bit too much, just in terms of, like, an O-line is probably more important to a running game than a running back itself is. And Ishmael Mahdi doesn't get close to the rushing yards he has tonight if it isn't for, you know, gaping holes in the run game where the Arizona offensive line is really kind of, you know, like, putting it on a good Kansas State defensive line. Like, that's really the unit on that defensive side of the football for Kansas State that they were, you know, very confident in going into this game. So there's a lot of credit that has to be put into the run part of this, but I honestly, like, I know it's Brent Brennan. It's not his personality. I know he especially with a big win and trying to, you know, capitalize and build momentum with this program. I get all of it, but, like, I also want to see a little bit less of you know, the clapper trademarked by one Kevin Thomas, and a little bit more of, like, hey, man, that wasn't exactly good enough, and that's not the standard that we set out of Arizona football. We expect perfection. You know, it's not going to happen, but we expect it, and we're going to treat it as such and go into the postgame and talk about it. I have, you know, this tweet here that I tweeted right after the game where Brent Brennan on the field, they asked him about the offensive line play, and he says, I thought our O-line did a good job. And as I put here, I couldn't believe my ears. That's your initial thought after the postgame? I mean, is anyone else find this as crazy? I'll start with you, Cohen. Like, you know, is that, do you not find that a little bit overly optimistic? Like, I feel like Brent Brennan's got his rainbow colored sunglasses on a little bit with his ideas on what the O-line did tonight.
No, I can definitely see where you're coming from. If Arizona did, in fact, lose tonight, I think everyone would have blamed the offensive line. I think he would have been much more down on that group as a whole. I am with you. I think the penalties are crucial. You cannot have those when you're playing a team that's in your conference. You know, like, this is what you're going to expect for the remainder of the season. So, you know, that being the first kind of thought, I don't know. I think my first takeaway of the game is how good the defense is. And that'd be the first comment I would make instead of giving to the offensive line.
I think, like Cohen said, Brent Brennan really didn't talk too much about the penalties, and I think that's really the main gripe with the offensive line. I think the O-line has been good this year, to be honest with you. Like, and we talked about it at the top of the show. So to be fair, Damon, I don't think we've been killing the offensive line too much, because we did talk about it at the top of the show about how they've been killing it in a bunch of different areas this season, run blocking, pass protection in many ways, but the penalties are unacceptable, right? And so I think that's a fair critique of the offensive line. But I also think it's fair for Brent Brennan to be happy with what he's seen early on this season with them, because as we spoke to earlier, I believe it was Roberto in the chat that brought it up. These things are correctable, right? It's not like you're up Ishmael Mahdi's creek without a paddle, right? Like you can fix this, right? You can correct the behavior of the holding of the false starts. That's coaching and players working together. I think it's fair for him to come out and be pumped up about the offensive line performance, even though it is slightly tone deaf, considering you almost lost this game because of your special teams, but also because of your offensive line just shooting you in the foot time and time again.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to clean up. And if you get that O-line performance against Iowa State, you're not winning. Straight up. You're going to have to play a flawless football game almost to get that W in Ames against the team that is probably the favorite right now in this conference to win the entire thing. I mean, that wasn't a performance that gets the job done, in my opinion, against that type of squad. But I do think that there are positives to take away with Ishmael Mahdi being a big reason for that. Ishmael Mahdi talked after the game as well and gave his opinion on what we saw from the offense tonight. Here's what he had to say.
that we play fast and we believe in each other. Coach Day believe in us. He's doing a great job putting the skilled players in a great position to make plays. I mean, this is one of the best OCs I've been around. He's doing a great job finding the playmakers to make plays, and we're staying together. I feel like this is the most committed offensive group that I've been with. Player-wise, we're player-led. We push each other and stuff like that. It's been great to be with this offense.
I love that quote. Fire me up, Ishmael Mahdi. Unbelievable. We got a great offensive coordinator. You can feel the belief in that room. That's a phenomenal quote from Ishmael Mahdi, and definitely seems like he's like, he has full belief in this squad to do something pretty special this season. Did you guys see that play? I know, Cohen, you were at the game, so it's a little bit more difficult. You guys see that play where he's kind of being run down off the sideline by a Kansas State defender after breaking a long run, and he's talking crap to the Iowa State or the Kansas State defender while going out of bounds, like putting his hand kind of in his eyes and like waving at him, and it looked like he maybe said like get away from me or something like that.
I definitely did not see that. That's one of the things that's tough when you're at a game. Everyone looks like stick figures on the field from where you're at. But fire me up. Like you said, that's the energy I want to see from this team. And he backed it up on the field, nearly 200 yards rushing. He had 200 yards from scrimmage, just piling it on this Kansas State defense, showing them what's up with Arizona. I'm totally on board with it. I think his confidence as well. He's a great speaker. Every time we've had him in press conferences and stuff, and even when you guys went to media day, he's a good kid, and it's hard not to root for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also wanted to ask you, Cohen. Me and Damon were talking about this, I believe, on the phone pre-game about the level of fan support tonight. Dustin in our chat, shout out to you, Dustin. Thank you for tuning in. Says, Cohen, how were the fans in the stands tonight? What was the Arizona Stadium environment like for this? Honestly, a huge game against K-State.
Yeah, no doubt. I think this might be a hot take, especially to the people in the press box. But to me, it looked like the overall attendance looked a little larger than previous games. It's kind of hard to tell because it's still in a full stadium by any means. But the Zona Zoo showed up. They always do, man.
Yeah.
It's a credit to them. They shake the stadium on third downs. It's really unreal. Probably the loudest reactions I've heard from the defense getting the team off the field today. The big plays, the Ishmael Mahdi breakaway runs, just absolutely electric. They're waving their towels again. It's really nice to see the fans kind of get engaged after they didn't have much reason to last year.
No, they didn't. I thought the Zona Zoo still showed up last year in a good way, but
yeah,
there was a time where Jed Fish was going to frats on campus in a golf cart and begging people to go to the student section for these football games. And the fact that even after a disastrous season last year for Brent Brennan, that the Zona Zoo, there's not an empty spot in that entire student section. There's about 8,000 people or whatever they fit in there, and it's shoulder to shoulder when that thing starts. And I think that's beautiful, man. I absolutely love to see that, and you could tell that defense was fired up by that level of fan support right there on their sideline. It's hard not to be, but man, what an absolutely special performance from that defense tonight. Did we have anything from Brent Brennan on the defensive side of the football?
Well, in terms of what we do have from Brent Brennan on my side, and we do have something about the defensive side of the football, but Cohen very, very smartly sent us Brent Brennan's opening remarks, and we're talking about energy, and apparently he was fired up, right? So this is Brent Brennan in his opening remarks after that big old dub against K-State.
All right, it's good to see everybody. What a great night. Appreciate everybody sticking around for the late game. The 100 timeouts per quarter, all that stuff. The Zona Zoo sellout, just rocking. And this was a really special night for our football team. I think it was a special night for our fans. I'm not sure how the retro theme played out, but it felt good to me. So I just want to say appreciate everybody. I'm excited. When you saw that out there tonight, that effort, that execution, that accountability, I know we got work to do, but that is what it's supposed to look like. That is exactly in moments what it's supposed to look like. Not the whole thing, but in moments, that's what it's supposed to look like. And I'm so proud of our team, and I'm so fired up.
Whoa! Hold on. Whoa. But behind the scenes, I was like reacting in a bunch of ways because Brent Brennan, the way he says rocking is really funny. And also, like, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, this version of Brent Brennan, like, this is fired up. That's kind of funny, whatever. And then he goes, that's how it's supposed to look. That's how you're supposed to play. And I'm like, whoa, Brent, we're good. We're friends. Brent, hey. We're good. K-State can't hurt you anymore. We're good. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen that much energy out of Brent Brennan. Like, that was potent and direct energy. And he was rocking in that press conference.
Yeah, I think many of us in the press room ourselves were visibly kind of in shock. Like, did he just scream at us? Is this Brent Brennan? This is not the same guy we're used to. But no, it was great to hear from him because in wins like this where you kind of pulled a tough one out and you let some things slip away. Maybe you should have lost it. There's an argument for that. To be fired up about the end result, just to be 3-0, that's awesome. That's what you want to see from this coach. You want to see more of it, to be honest.
And real quick, now that you're saying that about, like, Brent Brennan really just letting loose, Cohen, it kind of hit me. This is on us, Damon. We really didn't talk about this much heading into the week, and I guess it's like a tangential, like, not real story kind of thing. But this was a huge game for Brent Brennan's, like, coaching career in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah,
right? Like, K-State was a team that sent your season into a downward spiral of depression last year, and K-State was also almost the team that cost you this statement victory at home because you almost shot yourself in the foot and couldn't limp over the finish line. And K-State was just going to jog their way to the finish line and maybe fix their season and send yours, because then you go play Iowa State and who knows what can happen in that one. So I think Brent Brennan, whether he would ever admit it to us or not, maybe if we got a couple, like IPAs in him or something, he could admit it. But I feel like he really felt like a small weight lifted off his shoulders, getting the monkey off his back, so to speak, beating K-State. And I feel like that was like his little mini expression of it, of like, last year I told the guys we're going to go out and play a certain way. They didn't do it. That's how you play against K-State. That's how you block Austin Romaine. That's how you make VJ Payne, irrelevant in the game. I think he was really proud of his guys and happy for himself to get the embarrassment of losing to K-State last year off his back.
You think Brent Brennan's an IPA man?
I don't know what Brent Brennan is. Brent Brennan might be like a wine seltzer spritzer. I don't know. He could be Brent Brennan. I literally can't read him with the alcohol stuff. Like, he could be stone sober, never had a drop of alcohol in his life. He could also be like light beer only guy, and I would believe it. He could be IPA only guy, and I would be like skeptical, but kind of believe it. Complete wild card, Brent Brennan alcohol. Like, I feel like Tommy Lloyd, we know, he's a domestic beer with brown liquor every once in a while kind of guy. You know what I mean? But not Tommy Lloyd, but Brent Brennan, like, I have no idea what his flavor of choice is, to be honest with you.
What's the, I'm trying to think. We obviously know that our if you're going along the coaching tree of Arizona football, Kevin Sumlin was a Zima's guy. Everyone knows Kevin Sumlin was a Zima's guy.
Everybody knows.
No, I mean, Zimas have dropped, I've heard, like 80% their sales in Tucson since Sumlin has been let go. But since then, of course, I think, what do you think? Fish strikes me as like a martini guy. Like, he's a
Fish probably likes vodka.
That's like a cocktail man. And then Brent Brennan, yeah, I think IPA is fair. He strikes me. He's a West Coast IPA guy, like, surfer bro type of vibe. I mess with it.
Yeah. We do have a couple more clips from Cohen. Cohen got this clip of Brent Brennan talking about the defense, which was the whole root of this conversation anyway. So take it away, Brent Brennan.
I think Coach Gonzalez and that staff did an awesome job with the plan. I think it was a mixture of that and other stuff, right? Different personnel groups trying to match their personnel groups. I think anytime you hold any Division I team to under 200 yards of total offense, that's a special night. Like, that is a hell of a football night. And so our defensive staff and those players should be ecstatic, and we're ecstatic for them, because that is big time. Because when you think about it, the one big run, I don't know how long it was. 75. So, like, I'm not a math major. 193 minus 75. You guys do it for me, but there you go. 118 the total offense. So, I mean, come on, that is incredible, and we got to give the defense their flowers, man. Like, that was awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys react to it in a second. and I'm just gonna be the eternal optimist here for a second. Like, could you imagine how good this feels for Brent Brennan? Like, can we just put ourselves in Brent Brennan's shoes? Right? You have a nightmare season last year. Absolutely, that was a great joke, Robert. By the way, you have a nightmare season last year, and
Fish drink snake oil was the joke.
And what is likely to be like your dream job if you could pick one, right? And I think for him to have a vision of how to turn it around, be under all this immense pressure from fans and probably even the administration to turn this thing around this year, and then to bring on Seth Dagey, promote Denny Gonzalez, all the moves we've outlined ad nauseum over the offseason, for it to work the way it's worked in the first 3 weeks, he must be on cloud 9 riding into Ames, Iowa, right? And I think, like, to an extent, playing with house money in Ames as well. Because if you lose to Iowa State, well, okay, shucks, you lost to the best team in the conference. Unless you look absolutely, inept and terrible in that game, I think most Arizona Wildcat fans are okay with a competitive performance in that one. And if you get a win, hey, it's gravy. But I'm watching a man that's like experiencing like genuine, real joy in this press conference and real pride in not only himself, but his squad. And I think you just have to feel good about that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening, actually, when you compare his kind of post-game responses last year. Man, he would not really show it with his words, but he just looked so, like, the soul sucked out of him, You could see it in his eyes. He just looked absolutely just distraught that the team wasn't performing to their ability. And it's really nice because, I don't know, I feel like part of me has grown, like, to feel sympathetic for him. Like, I feel bad with the kind of, I mean, you're a coach. I get you're a head coach. You're supposed to be able to control the outcome most of the time. The on-field product is a representation of what you are and what you're doing with the team. But just seeing him win and seeing the 180 of his kind of his mental, it's super. It's so wholesome to see, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. It from a human standpoint, it's hard not to root for a guy like Brent Brennan, who I think is as likable as it gets, is as genuine as it gets, and like, I think a lot of us as Arizona fans, like, clearly a lot of people have their notions about what they feel, preconceived notions about how they feel this Brent Brennan era is going to end up, and there's still a lot of people that are not back in on the Brent Brennan ball era. But that being said, I think that those people would even tell you that they're rooting for Brent Brennan. They want Brent Brennan to be good, because why wouldn't you? I think that's very, like, almost like questionable of your character if you're sitting there being like, I hate this guy with everything in my body. And he is just a likable guy, and I hope that things continue to trend in the right direction, because they certainly are right now. And that's how we'll kind of end things out with you, Cohen, as you kind of wrap up another great day of coverage, great night of coverage, my guy. I want to get our temperature check on Brent Brennan. After 3 weeks, we're 3-0. The Arizona Wildcats get a W against Kansas State. Start with you, Cohen. How are we feeling about year 2 of Brent Brennan and just his tenure at Arizona in general?
Hey, 3-0 for the first time since 2015. There's a round of applause in itself. That's almost a decade ago, So it's really cool to see for the program that, I mean, it's only 3-0. It's nothing crazy. But for the football program here, it's really awesome to see, and just to see Brendan kind of winning and on that upward trajectory versus last year. It felt like he was on this just downward avalanche of a mountain just crashing in on itself. So it's really cool to see him kind of going up. Temperature check, I would say we're feeling warm right now. We're feeling cozy. We like what we're seeing on the field. We're not going to get our expectations too high. We're not going to be too low. We like what we're seeing, and optimistic for Iowa State next week, or in 2 weeks.
If I'm checking my temperature, it's weird, because this one I felt like my fever was rising in the first half. I was like, oh, I'm all in, and then I feel like I had to take ibuprofen or something because my fever just dropped ridiculously in the second half. I think, like, and I don't know how we're going to quantify this, Damon, if we're going to do like a Fahrenheit situation or Celsius or like an out of 10 or like the pictograph where you have like a frowny face all the way to a smiley face. If I'm doing the pictograph thing and down here is like, mad, angry, red in the face, and up here is like rainbow sunshine flowing out of my eyes, I'm probably like here. Like, I'm probably like feeling pretty confident that
what's that out of 10?
10 being perfect, 0 being abysmal, like a
quantify it for my stupid brain.
Like a 6. Like
Okay.
I feel confident that Brent Brennan is going to go bowling right now. I feel confident that he's going to get a third year. I feel confident that Seth Diggy is the guy for the offense. I feel confident that Danny Gonzalez is the guy for the defense. And those are Brent Brennan's choices. And so as long as both sides of the ball keep impressing me, I know that offensively they had their issues tonight, and we're going to talk about that all week, next week coming up. And we got a lot of time to talk about it, right? So, but I think right now I feel pretty confident that Brent Brennan can lead Arizona to a bowl game let's start there. You know what I mean? And then and count our chickens after that. But right now, feeling about a 6 out of 10 on the Brent Brennan scale.
Out of 10 for you, Cohen.
I'm going to go with the 7. I'm going to one up Kevin just a little bit because I think I'm a little bit more optimistic, but definitely kind of in that same area where like we got to see some more.
I mean, he felt the energy of the stream tonight. I don't blame him for one-upping me. He felt that's how you have to do a temperature check, Cohen. Yeah. That's how you do it.
Yeah. I think Brent Brennan earned himself +1 with that little post-game spiel right there. Like, Cohen's probably sitting here going, 6 with you right now, but he got screamed at by Brent Brennan. He's feeling a little bit froggy here on almost a Saturday night at this point, but we're still on Friday. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and split the middle on you guys. I'm going to go 6.5. I think that, as far as what you said, Kevin, 100%, he's got the right coordinators in place. I think that's half the battle, especially for a coach that's a CEO type like a Brent Brennan, where he's going to sit back and kind of watch and facilitate things more than kind of control either side of the football. I think continuity with these offensive and defensive coordinators is so important going into next year. And that's part of what goes into this temperature check, right? So, like, it's almost like, oh, don't do too good because, then you might leave. But I definitely am I think things are trending up. I believe in these coordinators. I believe in our quarterback. And if the defense is going to play like this, and I believe in our quarterback like I do, I think that's a good football team that Arizona has in place. But Cohen, I don't know if you want to get out of here and start getting your trek back home, or if you want to hang out with us as we wrap up in the final 5 minutes here, because I had a couple things that we need to laugh about before we get out of here.
Let's hang out. I'm all game.
Let's do it. Cohen's sticking around to laugh at some teams because, Kevin, I wanted to put this up on screen for a second. Your boy, call of the century, taking UCLA off of his betting slip. UCLA
That's true. I forgot this graphics.
Awful. God awful. Think the heavens, Kevin Thomas, the benevolent Kevin Thomas, allowed me to take UCLA off of that list and say, you know what? Why am I investing anything into the Bruins right now with the way they've been playing garbage football? New Mexico gets an outright W. UCLA is 0-3, and the Wysong family goes 2-0 tonight. People, Luke Wysong gets the dub against Kansas State. Evan Wysong gets the dub against UCLA. 2 underdog W's for the Wysongs. What a night for New Mexico. Danny Gonzalez, I'm sure, is happy given his ties to the program. I mean, UCLA, can we laugh at these guys? Unbelievable loss.
I'm laughing at myself because I've allowed my betting opponent out of the goodness of my heart to not like that. Look, I looking back with hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have been so nice. But no, I'm kidding, Damon. That was a huge victory. I don't know if everyone in the chat
I do the same for you. I'd let you pick.
That's exactly why I did it. I would come on this show like, I don't know if I can take Mizzou, Damon. They don't play till tomorrow. Can I please change it? Shout out to Ben Wysong as well, friend of the program, Luke's Uncle Ben. I think this was his Twitter account. I would assume it's his Twitter account that I saw it from. It was a photo of like the Wysong family doing like a dual watch, right, where they're watching Evan Wysong on one small smartphone, and then they got Luke Wysong going over the middle, getting catches for the Arizona Wildcats in real time right there. So, yeah, shout out to Deshaun Foster for maybe having the hottest seat in the country right now.
Can I show you guys a body bag of all body bags?
All right, sure.
Thoughts? Questions? Comments? Concerns?
I mean...
Let me put for our audio podcast listeners, Reddit College Football tweeted UCLA reportedly exploring a move to the FCS Big Sky. Source, I made it up. and the Big Sky Conference quote tweets it and says, "No, thank you. You got body bagged by the
That's
Big
unbelievable.
Sky Conference as UCLA." I mean, have you ever needed to disband a program more so than in UCLA football in that exact moment? Because that is brutal.
I mean, I'm trying to find it right now, but it reminds me of the yeah, I can show this. The "Who Want Me" meme. No, 100%. Like that's what it reminds me of. That's embarrassing. Ugh. That is like, you know, when you get secondhand embarrassment for like your buddy asking out like the beautiful person in class, and you love your buddy and he's a good chap, but it just you know, and then he does it, and you're like, the worst she could do is say no, and she's like, "Oh, I would absolutely never go to boba tea with you. Absolutely not." Right? And that's what it felt like. You know, you're just throwing it out there like a joke, and the Big Sky just comes over and just boom, dunks all over you. That's brutal. You're right, Damon. That was a body bag. Damn.
Dude, I've never seen anything like that. The Big Sky Conference is putting you in a body bag. I'm so glad that's not where my program is right now, guys. I would be fuming on social media if I was a UCLA fan. My head would be on Mars.
It's unbelievable. After the whole Nico situation too, like this is where you sit as a program. I'd be curious to see a Big Sky opponent play them. They'd probably wash him too, to be honest. So I don't blame the Big Sky.
Wasn't
people
Sean
are putting it in the
guy
chat
that had the really weird press conference to start his career there?
Yeah.
He's also like
he
heavily
was.
anti-reporters and people going to practice and stuff. So
I wonder
I don't
why.
know.
Damn,
I know.
enemy of the Big J's.
Well,
Yeah.
he probably
I
just
feel-
doesn't want them to see what's going on because they're going to start 0-3.
We take that very seriously as journalists and media members. You
Yeah.
come at one of us, you come at all of us, brother.
Can't support it.
No, absolutely not. But you know, UCLA, just you hate to see awful things happening to people like that, people that ruin conferences and age-old rivalries and traditions. But
Real quick before we move on from the UCLA thing,
yeah,
cash Arizona money line as a
yeah.
home
Why
dog.
don't we? Why don't we cash it? You know what, guys? I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I like your Ohio State bet, but I love Utah, Iowa State, and Oregon here. Parlay that, maybe throw that LSU pick of mine in there. Let's make a little 4-leg parlay.
Ooh.
I'm thinking we're taking this thing to the moon, people. But you know, that's all going to happen tomorrow on a college football Saturday that I will be living stress-free because there's nothing better than a Friday night win. Now I can hate watch college football in peace tomorrow. People,
Well said, Damon.
This is what life is all about. I'm gonna kick my feet up on the couch, put my hand in the back of my hair, maybe turn the hat backwards, and just crack a couple cold ones and get some funny joke tweets off because my team is undefeated and I can laugh at everybody else who isn't.
I mean, I can't wait to. You know, it's funny, Damon, that I did not see that you put the tweet in our stream here before you just put it on the screen, and I was thinking to myself, like, how awesome is it that now we just get to watch all these Saturday games and not have to worry about like, oh, well, I do have to go to work later, so I should probably, you know, lock in on that and maybe not watch this game as close. We can just be a sicko and watch like the weirdest games on full screen tomorrow because we can. I'm with it. Also, what the hell happened with the Snakes tonight? Everyone in our chat is talking about how they collapsed and this, and I'm seeing this on Twitter. That
The season ended. The season ended, Kevin.
Oh no!
We don't need to talk about that. That's for the PHNX
Did they
DVAC show.
extend Tory? Oh god, I'm gonna have to tune into the pod and find out. But yeah, no, I'm super hyped about tomorrow. Like you said, gonna crack some cold ones open. Maybe partake in some pure edibles. I don't know. It's gonna be a great day.
The Twins scored 4 runs in the top of the 9th, Kevin, to take a lead on that one. It was perhaps the worst bullpen performance of a incredibly pathetic bullpen performance season. But that's okay. That's baseball talk, and this is a winning football show.
Yeah.
So we don't even need to
Winning
talk
football
about.
program, undefeated.
We don't need to talk about it. This is a team that has continued to find a way, has found a way to pull themselves out of being, the laughing stock of this conference, of being the laughing stock of or at least one of them, of the college football world. And they've gotten better this offseason. They've stuck together. They've took the people out of the room who didn't want to be here, and they brought in a lot of new faces, and you're looking at a new iteration of Arizona football right in front of our eyes every Friday and Saturday night. So another good win for the Cats here. Another great coverage, night of coverage from our guy Cohen Kinney, who just continues to crush it for us. And if you guys are not following Cohen, you're making a big mistake, because he is, tweeting out everything, just literally just doing the job, man. And we appreciate him so much for being down there and handling all of that stuff for us. It helps us out so much. You can follow him at Cohen Kinney. That's CoenKinney. Give Cohen a follow. Appreciate you so much, Cohen.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, of course. Cohen killed it tonight. Kevin, the Wildcats killed it tonight. You killed it tonight, my guy.
No, you killed it, Damon. No, the chat killed it. No, the Wildcats killed it.
Absolutely. Can't you just feel the love in the air tonight at 11:50 p.m. on a Friday night here? Devin
and Damon, I hate to cut off your mojo, your flow right now, because you're wrapping up the show with expertise and great analysis and all that stuff. But we did forget to mention genuinely one thing that we'd be remiss to not mention. Shout out to Traden Stukes returning after a year plus away from the sport with a huge play in the game in which he made it. I have it in my notes here somewhere. But no, he made an absolutely huge hit. Shout out to Max Harris as well. Had a great first half. But yeah, mostly shout out to Traden Stukes for returning and looking really good in his return.
Traden Stukes gets a half sack tonight as well. Just a really good game from him in his debut performance of 2025, excuse me. But all I was going to say was, Kevin, Devinall, it's been fun having you in the chat tonight. We appreciate you, your support, your friendship, your Wrexham fandom. It means the world to me specifically. You know that. You are now the enemy, sir. Travis Clones, if you happen to watch this or any of our shows this week, you are now the enemy, sir. Iowa State fans, you have absolute, hellscape coming to you in the form of these Arizona Wildcats coming to Ames, undefeated, on top of the world. Noah Fifita. I mean, Kevin, it's everything it's all about. If the Wildcats win this one, are we talking conference?
I'm Mr. Got ahead of my skis. And in fact, I don't ski. I can't even get that far out. I don't even want to do it. But if they do pull off that W, Damon, make sure to tune into the pod and wear some headphones in public, because we might just be insufferable and no one's going to want to hear that outside of the Arizona Wildcats fan base. So just buckle up, folks. This is a fun football team. We talked about it all off season, and now it's here and we can actually believe it because it's real and tangible on our television screens. The Arizona Wildcats are fun again. It's a fact. And I'm excited to talk about it 5 days a week and after every game with all of my favorite people here in the chat, and Damon as well, and Cohen, and sometimes Erica.
Yep. And sometimes Saul. It's our blood brothers and sisters, and Justin Spears, who we'll have on later this week to bring you some expert analysis and recap Arizona's win against I'm screwing up here, Kansas State. You know what? I'm already on to the next one, Kevin. I'm done. I talked for an hour, 48 minutes and 20 seconds about this game tonight, and I'm done. I'm ready to talk about the Cyclones. I'm ready to figure out how this team could go to 4-0. And we're going to be, getting you ready for that every step of the way. We got a bye week in the process, but Kevin, it's time to hate watch in peace tomorrow. I am, of course, Damon Dog, your ultimate hate watcher. That is Kevin Thomas. He is the benevolent Kevin Thomas. You can follow him at Kevo Posts, and you can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats, where, I'm biased, but I think we got a lot of really funny and cool stuff going on our social channels. So maybe go check that out. Maybe go throw us a follow over there. Kevin, of course, this is the AZ Wildcats podcast. We enjoy doing this every night, and we couldn't do it without all the fine people here in the chat. Even you, bees, with your stupid forks up. Wish I could flip that thing over and go forks down, but I can't. because Espo hasn't given me that option yet. But I'm gonna keep.
If we get more
asking.
members, we can petition to get a forks down emoji, and then we could go to war. Forks
Yeah.
up, forks down emojis in the chat. You know.
Absolutely, that'd be electric. But appreciate everybody for being here, guys. We absolutely could not do it without you. Please leave a like on this, and just let us know who was your player of the game. Who was your favorite player to watch tonight? Probably gonna get a lot of Ishmael Mahdi's, but drop it in the comments after the show is no longer live. Kevin, that's going to do it for us tonight, my guy. We'll be back on a Monday at our regularly scheduled 2 p.m. showtime. Until then, we're undefeated. It's that undefeated feeling, brother. And peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. The Arizona Wildcats undefeated, never lost.
We all silly like the mayor.